My name is Monk Rowe for the Phileas Jazz Archive. I'm very pleased to have Summer Camargo with me today, composer, trumpet player, and band leader. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Monk.
Congratulations on your career so far.
Thank you so much. I'm just I feel like, it's hard work, but it's also just like right place at the right time, and I'm just grateful that I met the right people, and I'm grateful to just be I was thinking about it yesterday. I am doing the things that I always dreamed of doing and thinking that I would never be able to do that, and I'm doing it now, and I'm just like beyond grateful to be in this position, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else happens in the future. But I really appreciate you having me.
I think you must be reading this, my page of notes in front of me, because I was going to ask the question that you almost answered, but
Oh.
I'm curious at, let's say, I'm going to pick an age range, 13, 14, 15. Could you have articulated what your dreams were, what you were hoping for?
For sure. When I was in sixth grade, I met my private trumpet instructor the summer before, and he was the one that really sparked that fire within me to become a professional musician. I didn't know what that could have looked like at the time. His name is Rowe. I remember he sat me down one day, we had a lesson, and he was like, "Summer, we're not going to play today." It's like, okay. So the whole time he was talking to me about potentially going to Juilliard and going to New York City and becoming like a recording artist. And I was like, "What's Juilliard?" And I didn't know anything. And he is such an enthusiastic person, and his passion for music is so great, and it really was contagious, and I caught it too. And I was like, wow, okay, I want to do that. But I told him that I don't think I want to go to Juilliard. I want to go to University of Miami because I'm from South Florida, and all of my family has stayed local. So I'm the first in my family to leave South Florida. And yeah, it's just crazy. So at that time, I was like, okay, I want to be a professional musician. I didn't really know what that looked like. And then fast forward to high school, when I started really checking out the masters and different albums and current masters. And then when I had the chance to go to essentially Ellington, which is a high school jazz band competition in New York City that takes place at Jazz Lincoln Center. Wynton Marsalis is always one of the judges, Jeff Hamilton as well. Lots of great New York connections and different people to meet there, but also just like people within your age group. So when I saw that environment, and I saw the Jazz Lincoln Center Orchestra, I was like, wow, I really want to be in New York, and I want to just be playing and be like a freelancer and playing this professionally. And then I started writing my own music, and I started doing that towards the end of high school. And I was like, wow, this would be really fun if people could play my music. And I had a couple of different ensembles like play my music. When I auditioned and made certain honor bands, like I would bring in music and they would play it, and I'm like, wow, this feeling is amazing. I really love it when I get to perform my music. I feel like almost it's like a musical diary in a way. I'm like sharing to the audience. So I think just going back, sixth grade was kind of like, I want to be a musician. I don't really care. I don't really know what that looks like. And then high school was like, wow, I want to be a freelancer. I want to just play jazz professionally. And then later in high school, I was like, wow, I really want to play my music. And now It's interesting because I really do love playing my music. That's sort of what I've been focusing my career more in, trying to change that direction. Um, but there were a lot of things that happened in my career that I never really saw that coming. Like, for example, Saturday Night Live. I never ever dreamed that that would even be a possibility. I remember I actually just today, this is hilarious, I just found a video when you do a tour at NBC, afterwards you can be a part of like this video and like whatever your tour group is, like you can reenact like a Jimmy Fallon type show. So I found that today on my phone from 2020 when a really, really good friend of mine, her name's Kellen Hannis, great trumpet player, we both did the tour, and I'm thinking I didn't even like picture myself being in that building one day, you know, like being an employee. So I think it's just interesting how my career has kind of like went in different ways, but also within the umbrella of playing professionally as a musician. I found during my time at Juilliard that I really love teaching, and I got called to come be like a guest artist in different schools, and I found that at least when I put myself in the shoes of the students, I'm like, wow, if I was in their position, I would be really inspired to see someone around their age, like doing the things that I've always wanted to do. That's what I was inspired the most when I was in high school, when I saw people a couple years older than me, like playing with Wynton Marsalis, playing with the Jazz Lincoln Center Orchestra, playing in New York. I'm like, wow, I really want to do that too. So I hope I found when I was in college that I really loved doing that as well. Yeah. So I think like throughout the years, like what I want to do has sort of changed and has become like more specific along the years, but then also being open-minded to what gets thrown at me is also great as well.
You had you mentioned meeting the right people, and it made me think of a chat I had had with the drummer Eddie Locke.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and he said when he was young and he was meeting people that the important people for him were those who didn't just say like, "Oh yeah, you're great, man. You're the greatest." That they were encouraging, but they didn't like stone him with compliments, so that he knew that he was doing all right, but he had a long way to go. And I wonder, what is the right person that you mentioned? The right people. What were they helping you with?
Well, it's interesting that you say that about Eddie, because I think the greatest teachers I've seen are the ones that really try to understand the students and what their phases in life at that moment and what their temperament is like. So I had my first private trumpet instructor, so encouraging, like really uplifted me, showered me with compliments all the time, still continues to shower me with compliments, but also really pushed me. He was really the first person that was always trying to push me to play with the most emotion possible. He's like, oh yeah, that was technically correct, but I didn't feel it in my heart. He's like, can we add like more vibrato here or whatever? And then fast forward to high school, I had my two band directors in this performing arts high school called Dillard Center for the Arts. My jazz band director, Mr. Christopher Dorsey, super hard on us. Just would tell it how it is, just flat out say that we sound sad. And he's like, that you all sound sad. and was just always, but I feel it, but you can tell that some of the students were already hard on themselves. So I think he did a good job of like trying to balance out, like if he could tell that there was a student that was hard on himself, like maybe not being as hard on that student, but like being harder on some of the guys that like needed a little bit of a, slap in the face, And then my wind orchestra director, Sheldon McLean, he was just very, very hard on everyone, no matter who it was. Just super, super hard. To the point when I got to Juilliard, I thought most of the teachers were pretty soft. I was like, can you give me more?
Yeah, challenge me. Yeah.
Being more direct, like, can you just tell me how it is? But then also, when I first moved to Juilliard, my first private instructor, his name was Chris Chowdis. He sadly passed away a few years ago. But I'm grateful for him, because actually, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have gotten the job at Saturday Night Live. But he was, when I first moved to Juilliard, I was really overwhelmed with the city. I'm a freshman, feeling lots of imposter syndrome, like, do I really belong here? And feeling like I can't really keep up with the trumpet section. And so he was so encouraging to me during that time, incredibly encouraging. And I think he was really the only person that was like constantly lifting me up like that. Like, I had teachers that were like, say like a compliment here and there, but he was like totally just lifting me up. And I really needed that at that moment of my life. Fast forward, I met, my gosh, there's so many great, like, when you said that you're a musician as well, like, you know how connected the jazz world is, the music world is. So it's like, oh, this person saw me at this competition 10 years ago, and then now they're calling me to do a Broadway show. It's like, it's just crazy how that works. So you say you asked meeting the right people at the right time. It's like, I can't even count the number of people I've met that have either recommended me to do other gigs, or called me to do other gigs, or spoke to someone else about me. I don't know. So it's, yeah. But then I felt like the older I got and the more established I became within Juilliard and within New York City, I built that self-confidence within myself at that moment. And I was able to take on a lot more criticism and wanting more criticism. Like, now I'm like, just tell me how it is, people. Like, I want, like, if it wasn't good, like, tell me.
Well, now that you've been through that experience, is there something that you could pinpoint? I've used this phrase a lot over the years, and you experience something on a gig and you say, they don't teach that in school. Has there been moments like that, now that you've been through the educational process, of things you're still learning that you didn't learn in school?
Things that I'm still learning that I didn't learn in school. I think I actually was chatting about this with someone yesterday. I feel that school, period, not even music school, not even conservatories. I feel that the education system has failed students to broaden their horizons with what's possible career-wise. And I felt like when I was in high school, you would ask people like what they wanted to do and they weren't sure, because I feel like they didn't really know what kind of careers were out there. It's like, oh, you could either be a doctor, lawyer, and then you tell people you're going to be a musician, and then people are so curious. Like, when I talk to even like high school musicians, I'm like, what? I love to do master classes on what you can do to have like different streams of income, and like what I did to set myself up to be like a stable working musician. And most students are like, oh, you could be a teacher or play professionally. I'm like, no. I mean, yes, but like there's so many other things that you can do to still be within the music world, or you don't even have to be a full-time professional musician. Like, if you want to do another career, great. What's great about being an entertainer in the entertainment industry is we do work around people that have 9 to 5 jobs. So those people with 9 to 5 jobs can go and watch our shows. So I'm like, if you want, you could do your 9 to 5 and then go and do a gig. You might be tired, but if you really want to do that, you could totally do that. And so I talk about like there's even within like playing professionally, I feel that it's so narrow-minded. Like, oh, I have to be a bebop. Like if you play saxophone, oh, I have to be a bebop saxophonist that's playing at clubs like Smalls every night, and that's how I'm going to make it. And I'm like, even if you look at the top people of our industry, like let's just take, I've already talked about Winston, so let's talk about him. Winston Marsalis, for example. He's the top person, like one of the top people in our industry. He isn't just playing with his group. He started Jazz Lincoln Center. He's the head of Juilliard Jazz. He's also the head of the Louis Armstrong Foundation. I think he taught a class at Columbia. He's done so many like different educational programs. He's composing. Like he's currently composing a symphony for the Philadelphia Orchestra with Jazz Lincoln Center Orchestra. So he's doing a lot of different things in addition to playing with his own group, and then he's writing different types of music. I think he even was like, when he was beginning, he was saying when he was beginning, he played in like funk bands. He was playing with the Mel Lewis Orchestra, playing, I think he was in Sweeney Todd for like a little bit, like doing a little bit of Broadway. So it's like, you just hear of all of like, you just hear him as like a band leader with his group, but you don't know all of the other things that he's doing. And I am trying to make it more clear to students that it is possible to have a career in music when you are able to do a lot of different things. And when you're playing, like I'm playing in Saturday Night Live, that's a completely different animal all within itself compared to like freelancing. That's like I have to play lead, solo. I come in and I bring in charts as well. Then I'm also on Broadway. That's like a whole different game. That's like consistency, being professional, and that's like a different book, and trying to just like not go crazy because you're playing the same stuff all the time.
We're just having a conversation about that today with someone. So you have to be super organized, super professional, and if you had a niece or a friend and they're like, let's say, 10 years younger than you, which is pretty darn young. If their parents came to you and said, if you come to New York as a jazz musician, you better be able to fill in the blank. You better be able to
Can it be a list of things?
It could, yes. I mean, you can prioritize if you want. You know, I'll assume with this question that you're an excellent musician.
I try my best to be.
Yes, but I'm talking about a fictional situation where somebody who, yes, you're an excellent musician, but you better also be able to do.
Okay, you're an excellent in addition to being an excellent musician.
Yes.
Okay. Be a good person. Be professional. And be open-minded.
Okay. Annette Cohen said she had to learn how to do the hang.
Right. Yes. Like we were talking about before, everything is so connected, and I think there are different versions of the hang. For me, I actually don't go to a lot of jam sessions just because I'm already working a lot. Do I really want to go to Smalls after I've done 2 Broadway shows that day or another show? No. I think there are because when people usually hear hangs, it's like, oh, I gotta go to jam sessions. It's like, no. Some of the best hangs for me have even been like just sticking around after a gig. Like, I did a run, Jazz Lincoln Center put together a group called the Future of Jazz Orchestra, and we did a run at Birdland with Kurt Elling, and like one of the last nights, I think it might have been the last night, I like stayed like an hour and a half just chatting with people and talking. Different people from Jazz Lincoln Center came, talking with Kurt, talking with different people in the band. And then usually sometimes people are like, oh, do you want to go like to the bar next door and just like hang more? And it's like, sure, let's do that. I like organizing when I have more free time. I like organizing different small intimate jam sessions like at my place here. I can't have drums here, so it would be like guitar, bass, maybe like myself and like another horn player. It's like four of us, and it's like, okay, and then I like bring, I don't know, like I really love tea, so I'm like offer them tea and stuff, or I go over to another friend's house and try to like organize something, or doing like not even like non-music related things, but inviting music friends to do it. It's like, oh, I love throwing parties when I am free, which hasn't been a lot lately. But like a couple years in a row, I put together like a Halloween party, and I invited like a ton of people from Juilliard, and we all came, and it was great to just like hang in a non-music context and just like see how people are, and it's cool because I feel like that's how I'm able to like stay connected within the industry. I literally was playing in the Broadway show Just in Time that I'm in. It's about the life and story of Bobby Darin. Our first star, Jonathan Groff, amazing. We loved him. I chatted with him like pretty much every intermission. We would always talk. I would always bring in guests backstage. And our new star, Jeremy Jordan, he's more to himself, but they all play poker in between shows on Saturday. I mean, listen, it's not even like that high stakes. We all just put in like $20 or whatever. It's like, it's a very, very also beginner friendly game for our level, because I don't really know anything. But I remember I like came and I was hanging out with them, and we were like chatting in between like playing and stuff, and just like fun things like that, you know. It could be the hang and just like talking and hanging out with people afterwards. It doesn't have to just be a jam session, but just like being friendly and chatting with people. I think that can also get you very far too. In addition, of course, also in addition to being an excellent musician, because it's just crazy how different people can like recommend you for different things. And obviously, don't go into it being like, I'm gonna get a gig out of this, you know. It's just like I want to go in just like meeting people and like making friends, you know.
All right, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit. You familiar with Downbeat does blindfold tests?
Yes.
Okay. So,
oh gosh, are you going to do one for me now?
Well, this is more like name this tune.
Oh okay? Gosh, okay.
and I'll give you a hint that it was written by a trumpet player.
Okay.
And I'll do the best I can here. Goes like ba da ba da ba da ba da ba 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 da da. Ba 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 da da ba da.
Oh, that's me.
I'm glad I did it well enough that you could recognize it.
I was so confused because I was like, wait, I know that. And I also started singing along with you a little bit.
Okay.
And I was like, wait, why do I know that?
All right. Well,
because I wrote it.
That was just a lead in for me to ask you about your composing, but I did want to say I love your first. I don't know if it was your first record, your CD, "To Whom I Love," and that of course is the first tune and the bridge of it. Before I ask you about your composing process, I just wanted to say that The way you started that tune with just the horns
Mm-hmm.
and then the rhythm section comes in, I don't think enough people think of that. There's something about leaving something out and then bringing it in that just lifts the whole process. And starting with just the horns and then the rhythm section coming in, it was a great way to start your record.
Thank you. I actually don't know if that was me that came up with that idea. It might have been. I've just been doing it so long now. Even with when usually we open up our shows with JP Shuffle, and the rhythm section vamps over the A section while I talk. They start playing, and I go up and I talk, and I'm like, "What's up, everyone?" And then I introduce the band, and then I go 1, 2, 1, 2, ba-do-bop, and then we do that whole first A section a cappella like we do on the record, and the rest of it is like how we do it on the record. I think it might have been my
Producer,
producer.
perhaps?
Producer isn't the right word. It's more of like a artistic overseer. It was Sean Jones. So it might have been him that recommended that. I can't remember.
Well, it worked. And
Thank you.
so, do you get your ideas for composition when you're at the piano or when you're walking down the street or when something happens to you or when you have a deadline and need something?
All the above. with JP Shuffle that tune, I got the idea when I was lying awake in bed when I was a junior in high school. Yeah.
Wow.
I was I thought well, okay, so the way that all of the tunes happened in that way, writing for different people in my life, is because I wrote a tune called Tenderness Within for my mom for her birthday. And I was actually really inspired. My mom saw on Broadway the band's Visit, which isn't running anymore, but it was nominated for a couple of Tonys. I think it might have won a Tony or two. And my mom really loved this one tune in it, something Sharif. And it's the lyrics are really beautiful, and it was very like almost like pentatonic-y, the melody, and I was really inspired. I started listening to that, and like the A sections of Tenderness Within kind of allude to it, but not really, but I was inspired by that Broadway track. So I wrote it play like literally like on the floor of the laundry room, not even in front of a piano. I came up with the melody and figured out some chords. I honestly wasn't that harmonically educated in high school, so I kind of put together some chords. It was actually really different than it is on the album. It was like a fast waltz, and on the record it's like so I wrote that, played it at the dinner table for her birthday. I like got some friends to like record it really fast, like asynchronously, and played at the dinner table. And then either at the dinner table or after the dinner, people were kind of like, "So you're gonna write a tune for me, right?"
Your first commission.
So that month, I wrote this tune for my grandma called 80 Tears of Joy, which I didn't change anything about that tune. It's exactly the way that I wrote it then. That was June of 2018. Then later that year is when I wrote JP Shuffle, with Yeah, I think when I was younger, I really relied on like singing or playing stuff on my trumpet. Lately, I've been thinking like playing more things on the piano and including melodies on the piano. Or I've even like my first big band chart I wrote, I literally sang and thought of everything when I was showering. Like I was like over the course of like a couple weeks, I was just like, oh, that's great. Okay, I'm gonna add on to this, and then okay, that's great. Okay, and then I'm gonna just trying to like picture in my head like, oh, the saxes can play this or the trombones can play this. And I think it really depends. One of the tunes on my album, "Exploring the City," was actually a school assignment, and he wanted us to write. Um, what mode was it? It was supposed to be a mode, but I ended up writing it in Lydian, and it sounded more Lydian. And I brought it into class, and he's like, "That's great, except that's not the right mode." So, but that's cool because I feel like in a way, like when the thing that made me really overwhelmed when I would compose is that you can compose anything, like actually anything. So then I'm like, oh my, I don't know where to start. So, you know how people say, shoot for the stars, don't put yourself in a box. Well, I feel that in this situation with composing, that it's better to put yourself in a box. And within that, you can be creative, like more creative. For me, at least that's what helps me. Like when we're improvising, for example, most of the time when I'm improvising with chord progressions. That's a box right there. You're playing within the chord progressions. You could go outside the box if you want. You could play out. You could play something different. So the boxes for me are, I always love to have some type of story when I'm composing something. So when I was composing that tune for my dad, JP Shuffle, I'm like, okay, that's my first box. My box is, this tune is about my dad. Okay, what aspect about him do I want to write about? Oh, he's a very happy, glasses half full type of guy. Another box. And then I continue putting myself like in these boxes, like, okay, like what groove really describes him and this thing that I want to capture? Oh, I really want to do a shuffle. I think that would be like super, okay, great, another box. Okay, within the shuffle, what do I want to write? Okay, wow, I really love like this triplet based melody. I think that would be really cool because it fits really well in the shuffle group. Okay, boom, another box. If I want to break out of just doing triplets, fine, but I think it gives me like a great starting point on like where to start. And sometimes I start like, oh, I want to do this, and then I'm like, no, I want to change it and do something else. It's like, okay, great. Now I have some sort of like starting point, and that's been really helpful for me.
I totally agree, and I think unlimited choices do not necessarily make things easier.
Correct.
Yeah. Um, let's talk about. I interviewed Jane Ira Bloom. This I had to do this math a couple times. This was 28 years ago. And I asked her, the question was, has it been a disadvantage or an advantage because you're a woman playing jazz? And she answered sort of, well, in the 70s, there was a lot of consciousness in the air about it, and women jazz festivals had sprang up, and I got exposure. But what's upsetting is that when I talk to some of the younger women, I'm still hearing some of the same stories that I've heard for 20 years about social and business acceptance. So it got better, but not as quickly or as much as I had thought. If I asked you the same question about advantages or disadvantages as a woman musician, how do you feel about that?
Um, I am grateful to be a woman. I love it. I think honestly, I mean, I felt the most disconnect being a female, and I didn't even really realize it at the time until like afterwards. But I was often like the only one in jazz band, and I usually was one of the younger ones too. So, and it takes men a lot longer to mature. Sometimes they never mature. I'm learning that now, being surrounded by older guys that haven't matured yet. And I think women mature a lot sooner than guys. So I feel like once I got there when I was in high school, like I've become, more mature or whatever. Then the guys were just being like stupid idiots. And it's like, do I really want to hang out with them? No. But then also I wouldn't have any friends. So that's not good. Oops, sorry. Just 1 second. My iPad is about to die and we don't want that to happen. Okay. Great. There we go. All is well. So yeah, and I can name I can think of a couple of honor bands where I was only girl, and that's not even like I'm not advocating that they need to have more females in the jazz band. I think there generally should be, like, that would be nice, but I also I have a couple of things that I don't agree with the women in jazz movement, and one of them is I feel that sometimes people are just you have to have this quota, right? And that's what businesses are doing, and I hate that because you are hiring women that just so happen to play an instrument, instead of instead of the other way around where it's you're a musician who just so happens to be a female, So I feel that because when I was in high school, I unfortunately already thought this because I had been in so many situations where when I did see another female, they weren't as good as everyone else, and so when I got older, it took a couple of years to like really break that because I had been in so many situations like that, which is really unfortunate because I feel to really combat against that stereotype, you have to hire the best, like the women that are just as good as the men or even better, so you can really combat that stereotype. And it really angers me when people hire women that aren't ready for those professional opportunities, because that reinforces the stereotype that women can't play as well as men. And there's maybe one or two groups that I can think of that are all female that everyone undoubtedly is like a monster. And I remember, like, one of those groups is Artemis. And I remember going and watching them, and I'm like, everyone here is such a baddie. This is so awesome. I was like tearing up because I'm like, this is incredible. Not saying that other groups out there are not good, but you are only as good as your weakest link, right? So if there's like, oh, a lot of these people in this group are really, really good, and then you have a couple of them that are just like clearly not as good, then that I feel like that kind of defeats the purpose. Like, get men, who cares? Like, it doesn't have to be an all female group.
Yeah, that's more about
especially
marketing
now
than music.
Yeah, exactly. And then I also feel that and I can say this because I'm a woman, right? But like, I feel horrible for some men out there that are advocating the same thing that I'm advocating. And these women are like, you have no idea what it's like. You're just a man. And I'm like, okay, well, you can't just shut down the men that are actually speaking the truth here, you know? So I feel that and there's been some people that I really, really respect in this industry that have said, oh, when I'm picking ensembles and hiring people, when I see a woman, I see the potential that she has. And I'm like, no, that's such crap. Like, everyone has potential. You could give a instrument to someone tomorrow, and if they practice, yeah, they have potential if they practice their butt off, and if they're dedicated. I could start flute tomorrow, and I know how to read music. If I really practiced it, I could be good, I guess, you know. But like, what about those men out there that have practiced their butt off? They have the goods. They have it right there. They have the talent. They've put the hard work into it. They're amazing musicians. Like, go with them, please. Like, can we just pick the best ensemble out there? And then if there's like, okay, a woman and a man that are both at the same level, and you want to have more women in your band, great, okay, hire the woman. But we can't do this and hire the woman, because that's not good. And then that's when I get really frustrated. And that's when I get frustrated when I go to like women in jazz festivals and I see that happening. And I'm not saying that all the bands are bad. They're not. It's just, I'm saying, when I see the situation where I'm like, I can think of a gazillion amazing musicians. I'm like, why would you get that musician to play in the festival? Or why would you hire that musician? It's like, at the end of the day, you should be hiring the best of the best musicians, no matter what gig you're on. So why are we making an exception for if you're a female? Because then it, like I said, it reinforces the stereotype. So,
it's almost like an extension of the many years when race was an issue. And now it's become a gender issue. But I really appreciate your take on this topic. It's very honest, and thank you for
and
sharing
then I feel like people are kind of walking on eggshells when there is someone that isn't it's an unfortunate situation, because I feel badly for the person that is hired that maybe isn't as good and then it's sort of, I feel like, honestly, it's just a drag for everyone, because it's like, this person would probably feels uncomfortable that they're in this situation, and then everyone else is uncomfortable because they know that this person was hired because they're, look a certain way or are female, and then, you're walking on eggshells because of course you don't want to say anything to the person, it's like, it's just awkward. And then I feel that people are showering some people with too many, I don't know, too many compliments. It's just like, I don't know, it's just very interesting, and I feel it just, yeah. So I'm always on a mission to just hire the best of the best people. And on my album, Veronica Leahy, she's like one of the best in the industry. So I feel like I almost have like even a higher standard for women, if that makes sense.
Yeah, interesting. You're right. When she started playing her solo on your shuffle, that immediately got my attention. Her sound, it's sort of gloriously snaky and hard to describe, but that's a great thing for her to like have a distinct tone and approach.
Definitely, and she's the one that's doubling, like, she's playing all of the woodwind solos and parts, and she's incredible. I really look up to her a lot.
Yeah, bring her to Hamilton if you can.
Oh yeah, if it's a quintet, I'm gonna ask her.
Yes, that would be terrific. Just for some context here, I'm projecting. I should tell our viewers that you're going to come to our college in October, and I was told because it's a Friday night gig that you can do it, but you're going to have to go back to New York afterwards. And people
Right,
said, well,
yes.
that's like 5 hours away. You got to get back for Saturday Night Live, and you know, a gig is a gig, right?
Yeah, I can't miss Saturday Night Live. I gotta be there.
Yeah, that's like a day-long event for musicians, isn't it?
That is, yes. I'm there from 10:30 in the morning to 2 in the morning.
Okay. Well,
Very long day.
I might be a little afraid to watch that one because if you fall asleep, I'll feel responsible.
It's okay. I usually get like a nice 3-ish hour nap
Okay.
in between
All right.
rehearsals. So,
When you bring charts to that group, they're obviously for specific instrumentations. Do you have, like you're going back to the boxes you talked about, you must have a time box and what's this situation box?
um, time
Well, how
box.
long can this thing last? Or is it something that can be open-ended and cut
Oh, that's
off?
interesting. I actually never really put a limitation on that. Actually, well, no, sorry. I sort of do a little bit when I'm programming because I prefer to play more tunes than and shorter solos than less tunes and longer solos. And I know everyone has a different approach on that. So I try to like almost I yeah, I try to guess to see how long each person's gonna solo, and then I time how long a chorus is. I like sing through it, and then I multiply it, and then that's how I program. But like, what you're talking about composing, right?
Yes, I was talking. You said you brought in some charts to Saturday Night Live, and
Oh, I see.
yeah,
Okay, I didn't realize you were talking about SNL. I thought you were talking about my quintet. Um, yeah, that's okay. Yes, that's a good point. Yes, I brought in a couple of charts, and I did have to think about the timing because of the commercials. And I talked to my music director, Lenny Pickett, about that, and he would give me like generally, he was like, it should be around this time frame. But at the end of all of our charts, we have open-ended vamps because sometimes things go longer. We always have our in-ears in, and our other music director, Leon Penjarvis, our organist, is the one that's directing us. Like, okay, we're actually going to repeat back to J, or we're going to jump to the last chord, boom. Sometimes that's happened. Actually, a lot of times that's happened. So it's funny because I have recordings of most of the charts that we play, and I was practicing them a lot, especially my first season, and I would play along, and sometimes there would just be like random cuts in the recordings, and I'm like, oh, they must have cut to here just for time, and some charts they actually permanently have cut like half a page because they never make it through the whole chart, or some charts we added like a repeat for like the whole page again because they're too short.
great. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. I'd like to wrap up with a little piece of audio, and I hope it comes through. Okay, I counted those.
Oh, you did. I've never counted
There
them.
was seven Deuts. And I just thought that so caught my ear. I'm telling you, like, um, do you remember that particular instance? Like, did you think to yourself, okay, I'm going to do repeated doits here, or is it just spontaneous?
I remember, I think that might have been take, I feel like, well, with that one in particular, we ended up mashing a couple of different takes with the solos because it was interesting because I don't know. But my solo, I think that might have been the first one. The
It's on
first.
video.
It is on video. Yes, I think
Yeah.
that it might have been the first take. Or because I remember thinking like, oh, that would be really cool to do something cool before, like for the break. It wasn't really. It was a little break. So I think I did like pre-plan like do a couple of doits, but I don't think I planned it being that long
Hmm.
or that many. And I thought that would be cool to just in the moment. I was just like, oh, that'd be cool if I just continued that.
I think it works.
Thank you.
And
It's very
the and
interesting. It's like the first track of my debut album. It's a very interesting, like, hello, I'm here.
exactly what I thought. It's like, yep, holding up. Here I am. Check it out. It's boldy. It's bold and brassy.
Very aggressive. I think like I have like very in general like I think I can be delicate and especially like with playing flute and stuff like that. But like with trumpet and generally I get drawn to players that have a more aggressive approach, like Louis Armstrong or Freddie Hubbard, or like Marcus Printup, like people that are like very like bold, brassy, like almost like in your face, but it's like not too much. And so I've always been very drawn to trumpet players like that. And I think that's one of the reasons I was drawn to trumpet, because it's very much of a like alpha instrument, and you're playing the melody, you're leading the section. Yeah, of course I didn't think about all of that when I was deciding the trumpet because I didn't know. But like the more I played it, the more I realized I was like, oh, I really like this.
Yeah, the planets aligned for you. Well, this has been great conversation, and I look forward to seeing you in the fall at Hamilton.
Yes,
And
likewise.
yeah, and best of luck with your continued career and keeping track of your days and gigs and times.
Yes, that's always a challenge. I can keep track of time and chords and in the moment of music, but when it comes to actual time on the clock, us jazz musicians always have a problem with that, I feel.
Yeah, time is, ding, ding, a ding, ding. That's
Right,
time.
exactly. Yeah.
All right, I'll just pause here and we'll say our goodbyes.
Okay.